What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in today. It's in the in the title. I'm going to talk about Lucasville Prison today. Its official name is the Southern Ohio Correctional Facility, and it's in Lucasville, Ohio. But everybody here just calls it Lucasville. Every state, I'm sure, has one. You know, California has San Quentin, and Louisiana has Angola. Shit like everybody has their uh their prison that's got the biggest rep, I guess you could say. Uh Lucasville was built in the, I want to say that it might have been the late 60s, early 70s, 73, 74, maybe a little bit earlier than that. And right from the beginning it was a slaughterhouse. Um we had two prisons. For those of you who've seen the movie Shawshank Redemption or Tango and Cash, um, Lil Wayne did a music video. I think it was the Fireman video. I'm not 100% sure. At a prison in Ohio, they call it the Castle. It was the old Mansfield prison in Mansfield, Ohio. That prison is no longer operational. But at one time, that prison in Lucasville was like neck and neck for not only the worst prisons in Ohio, but I would argue probably nationally. I know Lucasville had one of the worst riots in American history. It was the longest lasting riot in the history of documented riots. Um, 13 people died in that riot. 12 of them were inmates. They went on a snitch rampage. They killed one CO. Bunch of people got injured. But Lucasville is a maximum security prison, and that Lucasville has their own set of rules. Are they under the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction guidelines? Yeah, absolutely. But they do what they want to do, is what I'm saying. They make their own rules. So Lucasville's the spot where if you get in trouble in prison, all the worst guys in prison would get sent to Lucasville. Now, it's still like that, but Lucasville over the last 10 years or so has lost its has kind of lost its reputation a lot because it's turned into, I've spoke about check-in camps, people just refusing to lock down, and now because of this new PREA, these PREA laws, if you tell staff you're in danger or you feel in danger, they have to put you in the hole immediately. And you can sit in there your whole bit. Well, some guys was accumulating so many refusal to lockdowns and bouncing around to so many prisons. The last step on the ladder is Lucasville. Once there is no getting sent from there unless you go to the other max OSP. But the point is, people will go sit in the hole at Lucasville forever until they're out date if they want. And it didn't used to be like that. The COs down there, it's the tri-state area. So if you can picture the state of Ohio, the very bottom, the point of Ohio, that's where Lucasville is at, Portsmouth, Lucasville area. But it's also, you got Kentucky and West Virginia meet Ohio right there, and they call it the tri-state area. And you have COs that work at that prison that live in West Virginia and live in Kentucky. So you got people from all three states, but they all know each other. It's a little small area, and they're all related. And there is a racial uh, undertone there, and it's from the staff. Every day I was there, the civilians that lived in the area around that prison picketed. They would protest. They're trying to get that prison closed. I believe they still are. Lucasville's the only prison I've ever been to. Up in night, I was there from '07 to '09. So again, shit is a lot different now. But Lucasville at that time was the only prison I'd ever been to where the COs tried to kill you. Like they wanted to kill you. All you had to do was give them a reason. I seen some of the most brutal assaults on inmates by COs I'll ever see at that prison. I spoke when I was on the Fresh Out podcast. I spoke about the guy. I used to work in the hole at Lucasville, and my job was just I kept the main hallway clean. I swept and mopped it, changed the garbage, shit like that. But I would see them when they would bring guys into the hole because I worked the main hallway in segregation. So I would see everybody who came to the hole. And I'll never forget it. This one day I was out there working, and my boss, one of the first rules he told me was if I ever tell you get your nose on the wall, get your nose on the wall. And you listen to them COs down there. You don't buck the system at Lucasville. Not back then anyway. And so he told me to get my nose on the wall, and I'm standing, I'm facing the wall and shit, but I'm still looking. And they bring this dude back there, and they got his hands cuffed behind his back, and they're wrenching him up as high as they could possibly get him. I mean, he's bent over, and his arms are just wrenched straight up in the air, and it looked like he had snot hanging out of his head. They had been beating him with them billy clubs, and they cracked his head open. And at Lucasville, again, another Lucasville special, the only prison I've ever seen this, they got these cells, they're called slammer cells. And what it's just a double door. You're in a cell and you got your door. When they open that door, you step out into this little phone booth sized celly port, and there's another door with no window. So for situations like this where they got this dude fucked up and he's screaming and hollering and begging for medical, and they just don't want to hear it or deal with it, they'll take you and they'll throw you in that slammer cell, and they'll shut both of them doors, and they won't hear you, and you're in there. And if they do, and it's up to the CO whether or not the lights on or off. Now you'll catch a cool CO, he'll do a round, and you can ask him, hey, can you hit my light for me? And most of the time they'll do it. But you get situations where the COs just beat you up. All them COs down there stick together, and it's hell for you. So if you want the light on, they'll cut it off and they'll leave it off. If you want it off, they'll cut it on and they'll leave it on. And you're in a cell with no window, and you got no sense of light after so many days in this double door cell. You can't hear shit. The only time you ever have any human correspondence is when they bring chow. There's this little fucking slot in the wall next to the door where they flip the lid and they slide you your fucking tray. And it's fucked up. I don't know whatever happened to that guy. I know I seen a lot of people die when I was in Lucasville. When you go to Lucasville, if you're in Lucasville is where, like I said earlier, Lucasville is where all the troublemakers go. All the violent guys, all the The worst of the worst, right? Lucasville's the prison for guys who can't act right in a normal prison. And so when you go there, you have to immediately off the bus, you go straight to the hole. It's in Lucasville, it's called 4B. The reason it's called 4B is because Lucasville is a level 4 compound. It's a level 4 prison. So if you're in the hole, you're level 4B, which is even higher. It's like a higher security because you're on lockdown status, segregation. And but anyway, and depending on what you got sent there for, depends on how long. I sat back there about 8, almost a full 9 months. When I got road there. But I've seen guys, if you go there for like an assault on a staff, they'll keep you back there 18 months, 2 years. When I was in Lucasville, if you got in a fist fight, whoever the aggressor was, they would review the camera. Whoever threw the first punch or whoever was the aggressor, whoever deemed to be the person who started the fight, it was automatic 1 year in the hole. No questions asked. 1 year just for a fist fight. You would think that would deter shit. And it didn't. It just gave dudes the mentality, well, fuck it. If I got to do a year in the hole just for punching this dude, I might as well just stab the fuck out of him or catch him on fire or beat him with a lock and a sock or cut him. Or, that's the mentality those guys get. There's inmates in Lucasville. They were called Lucasville inmates. And that's a notorious thing around Ohio, or it was in my time. People knew who Lucasville inmates were. You could tell who they were if they just so happened to get rode into your prison. Most of the time they don't. They call them Lucasville inmates because they've been at Lucasville so long. That's where they're comfortable and that's where they would rather be. And they're fried. Lucasville, they call it the shit slinging capital. I did a whole video about professional shit slingers. When you go to the hole at Lucasville, you don't have a cell door. Your front wall is bars. You got 3 walls, and then your front wall where your door would be is all bars. And so what guys do is you get 2 blankets. I don't remember if it was 2 sheets. It might have been 2 sheets. I think it was 1. But it might have been 2 and 2. Either way, guys would take a blanket and they would open it as big as they could get it, and they would tie it up on their bars just to get shade and try to get any type of privacy you could possibly get. And also, to use it, you have to have something up covering your bars because they got professional shit slingers back there. And what they'll do is every meal in Lucasville, you get a styrofoam cup. Now, I don't know if they do that now or not, but even if they don't do it, you get a little milk carton. It don't matter. Guys find ways. There's creative ways. Guys will always find a way. But what they're doing is they're filling up any container they can with piss and shit. And they'll close it off and they'll let it sit and ferment for weeks. And they'll make the grossest concoctions you can think of. They'll add milk to it and let it spoil and all just simmer together, and it's the grossest smell you ever will smell in your life. And a lot of guys will put these concoctions in a shampoo bottle so they can squeeze it and it squirts out like a squirt gun, and they'll spray you. And especially if you're on the top range, because if they bring you out of your cell on the top range for anything, you only have like 3 feet of width between the where the cell bars are at, and then there's a fence, so you can't jump off the railing. So it's like a hallway basically, and so there's nowhere to go. And they don't give a fuck about a CO being with you. And the COs don't give a fuck about them throwing shit. The COs will tell them, man, you better not get me with that shit. They don't give a fuck about you getting hit with that shit. Trust me. And they'll squirt you in your face. I've seen guys do the grossest shit. There was a dude named I've spoke about him, 5'5". He would take magazines and he would rip out all the papers, all the pages, and he would roll them up real tight and firm, right? And he would link them together and he would get it to where it would be about 3.5 feet long, but it was solid, right? And at the end of it, he would take a staple, a paper clip, most of the time a paper clip, but if he didn't have it, a staple, and he would straighten it out, and he would stick it to the end of it, right? And it was always firm. I mean, it always worked. He done this a bunch. And if he was beefing with somebody, he would wait for the CO to come get him. And 5'5" had the first cell right by the shower. So you had to walk by his cell for anything regarding that way. If you had to go for a hearing, if you had to go out of the block, if you had to go to the shower, you had to walk by his cell. And he would wait for them to go get the guy, and he would take that rolled up magazine and he would take the end where the paper clip's at, and he would stick it and dunk it in one of them cups with all that ferment and shit. And he would get the end of it sloppy with that shit. And then as soon as the CO would walk the guy by, he would take that and stick him through the bars and poke the guy with it, with all that shit and piss on it. He would poke him with it. And that's just that's just the tip of the iceberg at Lucasville. When you're in the hole at Lucasville, Monday through Friday, you get 1 hour of rec, right? And they I don't know, again, I haven't been there since '09, but when I was there, they had what was called the rec chain. So on your range, there's 20 cells, right? This rec chain is long enough to stretch the whole length from the first cell all the way down to the 20th cell. When they get to your cell, you're supposed to be standing there butt ass naked because you got a strip search every time you leave, right? Once they give you the approval to get dressed, you throw your clothes on and you hop. You turn around. They put leg irons on your ankles and they cuff you behind your back. Or excuse me, they cuff you around your front to this rec chain. And all 20 guys, or however many of you decided to go to rec that day, you're all handcuffed to the same rec chain, right? And then when they get you outside to rec, they put you all in your own individual rec cage, and then they uncuff the chain, and you go do your rec. So you can't, if you're beefing with somebody, you can't get at nobody, is the point. And so what these guys will do is, and I've seen this more than once, this was a common thing, and it probably still is. They would pack their mouths full of shit and get on the rec chain and wait for whoever they're beefing with, to get on it or whatever. And once we're out in the main hallway, they just go spit shit on them. And then the COs will mace everybody because that gun don't You know, it ain't target practice. They get the air in that bear spray, that fox, and the whole rec chain goes down. So now all you smell is fucking pepper spray and shit. And the COs are just swinging the clubs. And that's a daily occurrence. They tell you before you get there, don't get on the rec chain. Just stay in your cell and do push ups. Lucasville's a fucked up spot. And every state got one. That's ours. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button. Share the video. And until next time, y'all, it's the Hoodie Man. Stay safe. I'm out.